So 2014, my family was homeless. All six of us were in this little hunting barn in the middle of the woods, terrified really, but so excited for what was to come. And we were sleeping on a concrete floor on egg crate foams, just lined up and with our sleeping bags.
Wow.
And we would cuddle together at nighttime and, watch movies on a little screen on, my husband's laptop. And, first time we had ever been together, just us as a family. Just days before, we had escaped a very high control religious community that we had grown up in. And what that meant was leaving everything behind.
Today, I am honored to give you part one of my story with Jasmine Chambers. And before we start, I wanted to let you all know that sometimes when you have not been able to talk about the things that happen to you until you become well into adulthood, it can be scary, it can be terrifying, it can be very lonely. And to be able to figure out what your true voice is takes a lot of inner strength. It takes quiet time, and it takes self-reflection and accountability. And I am so proud of the person today who is choosing to tell her story, who has been brave over and over again. Thank you for listening to part one today. Jasmine Chambers was raised in an authoritarian religious organization where obedience and submission, especially for women, were the only acceptable way to live. From childhood, her life was defined by compliance, control, and constant proving. When she finally chose to walk away with her husband and their 4 young children, all under 10 years old, one nursing, they left behind everyone and everything they knew to build a life on their own terms. They left with nothing but each other and a fragile belief that life could be different. As a mother and wife in a new world, Jasmine began the hard work of undoing and rebuilding from the inside out. Today, she is the co-founder and CEO of a thriving design build firm in Nashville and the author of the upcoming memoir, Dreams That Matter, tracing her journey from communal obedience to personal ownership, from silence to selfhood. It's a story of grit, grace, and the sacred power of choosing a life that's truly yours. Jasmine speaks to women who've carried trauma quietly, who've built impressive lives that don't always feel like their own. Women who are tired of being admired for their strength, when what they really want to know, their truth, and have the courage to live it. Her message is simple and true. You don't wait for permission. You don't need to have it all figured out. Bravery begins the moment you listen to your heart and take an honest step in the direction of your heart. Because life of your dreams, the one that truly matters, begins the moment you choose to build it. Hi, everyone. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to someone that you may not know yet, but I am telling you now that if you haven't heard her name before today, you will continue to throughout the years, because her story is not only powerful, it was one that was not given to her. It was taken from her for a long time, because when you come from a place of high control and possible manipulation, or high control religious groups, or so many other types of controlled environments, you don't get to start using your voice until for a really long time. So I'm so proud to introduce you all to my friend, Jasmine Chambers. Hi, Jasmine. How are you?
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I have been so impressed by every single thing that I have found out about you. And I know from life experience that when you go through so many difficult things, it can be very, very lonely. So I just want to affirm today that you are so not alone. And I am just so proud to be able to talk to you today. So, Jasmine, why don't you just start with the beginning, like where you came from, and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So Well, I'm going to start right now because when I wake up every morning now and I look at where I am and I look at my life and I take a minute to just really acknowledge how far I've come, I am so blown away and just filled with gratitude. People look at my life now and they might not know where I've come from. And it looks like, oh, she's pretty successful. She runs a thriving company. She has a wonderful husband and a healthy family, and they live in the home that they built and it's beautiful. And what they don't know maybe is that only 10 years ago, or just actually 11 years in December. So 2014, my family was homeless. We were all six of us were in this little hunting barn in the middle of the woods, terrified really, but so excited for what was to come. And we were sleeping on a concrete floor on egg crate foams, just lined up with our sleeping bags.
Wow.
And we would cuddle together at nighttime and watch movies on little screen on my husband's laptop. And first time we had ever been together, just us as a family. Just days before, we had escaped a very high control religious community that we had grown up in. And what that meant was leaving everything behind, everything we had built. So here we were in very early 30s with 4 young children under the age of 10. We had worked really hard up till that point, but everything we had built belonged to the group. So when we left, we had nothing. We had to write everything off and start from zero. Even the car we had was a rented truck that we were able to rent because my grandfather wired us some money. And when we arrived at this little hunting barn in the middle of the woods in Charlotte, it's about an hour from Nashville, that was because someone my husband had worked for offered that place to us to just land. And amazing. I mean, that was the start of such an amazing, amazing journey. But I can't even believe we've come that far. Looking back, I'm just filled with gratitude for how far we've come.
Yeah.
But in that space, it was scary, but it was also so, like I said before, so exciting and exhilarating. And I think a lot of times, like, that's how change happens, right? It's like there's so much fear, but I've heard before that fear is just excitement without the breath. So if you take a minute to just breathe, you realize, oh, there's something really exciting. There's so much possibility. And up till that point, I had never had the chance to even know who I was as a person, to make my own decisions, to work hard for something that was mine. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted to discover the person I could be outside what I was told to be.
For that particular group, can I ask, is it something that you're allowed to even say what it is? Are you still in a place where you feel like you have to be cautious with what you say?
I'm careful because I have a lot of people there that I still love, even though I don't talk to them anymore. One of them is my sister, and she has 7 young children that I don't even know. So that's how it is. It's very just controlling and separate. It's a completely different world. So I would never say anything bad about the group itself or the people there, because I know there's a lot of really good-hearted, well-meaning people there, but it's the environment, it's the structure that we had to leave in order to build a life that we're proud of and the life that we're meant to live.
Yeah. What made you different to be able to escape this? I would just keep wondering what it was that finally made you guys strong enough to realize you had to get out. That is not one brave decision. That is like 100 brave decisions. You have 4 children already. And I am assuming that you're going to lose everyone that you love. And you're going to be turned into a villain. You're going to be excommunicated. You are not going to seek revenge, but it is going to be known that you cannot come back. So what was it that was different about you, and how did you decide?
Wow. Like you said, it was a series of choices. It wasn't just like one time we woke up and we're like, we have to leave, let's go. It was a lot of, over the years, just continually coming to that knowing deep down that there was something more, something different, something that was outside of this context that was for me and so much more expansive. but then pressing it down all the time and thinking that, that itself, those thoughts were evil, and it was probably the devil bringing that to me, because why would I think those thoughts, when I was supposed to be this committed, surrendered, obedient, modest woman, to serve others and, live a life of self-sacrifice. And so even to have those thoughts was just, blasphemy, really.
Yeah.
And so really, Aaron, about a year before I left, I remember vividly, I woke up one morning early from this dream that I had had. And in the dream, I was in this house and it was clean and it was peaceful and it was beautiful. And it was so real in my dream. I could feel it and see it and like almost taste it. Like I had this sense of just comfort and peace, but also control. Like it was ownership. Like I had worked hard for this and it was mine. And it was something that I was proud of, but also I've just had peace in. And when I woke up in a panic because I was like, why would that come to me? Like, why would I want that? Because it's not my life now, not near my life now. And, and then, all I could think was like, well, that's the devil obviously coming to me, showing me something I shouldn't ever, ever want or ever dream of. But it never went away, like I just knew there's something. I don't have to be this person that's only who she is because that's what people expect of her. And I couldn't have even put it in those words at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that is for people that have only known you as obedient, as malleable, as easy to manipulate, as lesser than them. It is very difficult to even just say no more. It is difficult to just say, this is not okay, because they're not going to see you. And to be able to be seen in your own life is something everyone deserves. And I just am amazed by and proud of you for that. And I have another friend who has escaped a very high control religious group, and it was beyond painful inside for them as well. And I want to ask you, because this is something that I feel for myself, but I'm not sure if this is how you feel as well. Would you say that you have a hard time gauging your own value in the world?
Yes, it's been a journey and it's been a lot of work I've been doing diligently to start to understand my value and really own it. But definitely took years before I, even got to the point where I could start speaking up for myself. Like I remember going to a restaurant just right after we left and not even knowing how to choose what I wanted off the menu.
Wow.
Like making a decision for myself was not something I had ever had to do. But then when I tapped into that, I think I'm naturally a very decisive person, and I'm very stubborn too. So that's just my personality.
Thank God you are, so you can get out.
I was like, actually, I do have opinions and I can start using my voice, and it's not hurting anyone else for me to do that. It's actually freeing because, it helps other people to realize that they also have a voice.
Right.
But to look at it in that perspective was just so foreign to the way I have been raised.
Yeah. Wow. So now, and I want to ask you about something that I was really amazed by. When you got out of that, you were like, okay, we have to fight for our family. We have to get an education. And then you found out that you actually didn't have a real high school diploma.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that.
So growing up in the group I grew up in, we were homeschooled, and I was told at a certain point that I had finished my education. I was around 15, and, most of it was because they needed my work. We would work from early in the morning till late at night, making meals, doing laundry, doing chores, doing farm chores, taking care of children, sewing, cleaning, all the things that women do. And I was good at it and I was a hard worker. And so, it was kind of a waste for me to sit in a classroom. And So I was told, yeah, you're good. You have the education that you need for your life.
Wow.
And then about a year after we left, it took me that long to kind of just get through the chaos in my mind. But I knew I wanted to build my own confidence and to do something for myself. And for me, that was to go back to school. Or I wanted to get a college degree. And so I had no idea where to start. I think I started just Googling like colleges that looked interesting and called up. I started calling admissions, offices and being like, hey, how do I enroll for college? And they're like, send us your transcript. And I remember saying, what if I don't have a transcript? And and the person on the other end of the line is just, what do you mean you don't have a transcript? What, you don't have a high school transcript? Did you not go to school? What happened? And at that point, I wasn't really open to telling my story much. So it was hard for me to get people to understand where I was coming from. So eventually I realized, oh, I got to get a high school transcript. And somehow through my series of phone calls, realized I needed to go to the Workforce Development Center and get that done. So, I made some calls and started taking classes at nighttime after my children went to bed. And after a few weeks, took the test to get my high school equivalency, document so I could enroll in college. And that was the first step for me to really just discovering who I was, what I could do, what I could accomplish. Yeah.
Wow. And for people who don't know, tell everyone what you and your husband do now, because the difference in that is literally night and day.
My husband and I, we own a company called Jasper Builds. It's a high-end design build firm here in Nashville. It's a thriving company. We have 24 team members that work with us and who are very passionate, driven people. And we love what we do. We get to transform homes and lives every single day. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that work.
Yeah. For me, when I think about what I have been through, there is very much like an identity hold on that person, right? So for you having a completely different life now, do you see yourself as who you are now or who you were then?
Wow, what a question. When I look in the mirror, I see someone that I'm really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have been able to say that years ago. Obviously, I have a long way to go, and I'm living to make the future me proud. That's what I live for now. I want to be, on my deathbed and telling the most incredible story. That's my goal. But when I look back on where I've come in the last 10 years, I am so incredibly grateful for that woman who made every choice she made, even the ones that maybe I would do different now, because I know that I was brave and I showed up and I used the tools I had at that time to make the next best choice. Once I realized the power of choice, that changed everything for me. Like I can choose the life I want to build, the life I want to live. And it comes, in increments, but you just have to keep moving toward that.
What has been your biggest help in the healing of this? Because I'm sure there was a time when you just had to survive. And then as you've been getting out of it, what has helped you the most?
Really finding people who are supportive, who have been down the road and got into places I want to go. I mean, in growing the business for sure. Like I firmly believe in mentorship. I do my best to surround myself with really high quality people who I admire and respect. But in my personal journey, yes, you're right. Like the first few years were just really chaotic, trying to figure out, even how to just land my feet on the ground, especially the first year. I think that was just part of the story people don't talk about much is you can make that brave choice, but a lot of times what comes after that is a lot of chaos. And you got to keep listening to that little voice in your heart and keep moving in that direction, no matter what. It's going to be really hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that for background, I used to have a very difficult time up until a year ago standing up in a restaurant and going to the bathroom. I didn't want anyone to see me. And that is not apparent in how I act. It's not apparent in the things that I write about and what I post. But my norm was to hide. Like my habits, what was ingrained in me was to stay quiet, you know?
Hmm.
And for you, I mean, I always would tell myself, even when I shake, even when the words won't come out, I'm still going to try. I'm still going to speak because, yes, your future you absolutely deserves that, but so does all the years that you had to stay hidden. I was homeschooled as well. Not, I was only until high school, but that does create a very confusing time because you're hearing everything you're learning is not from an outside source. It's all internal. So to get out of that, like you really did have to have something incredibly strong and brave in you because it is much easier to listen to other people and listen when people tell you who you should be than for you to save your own self and save your family. So now, would you tell the little girl who was homeschooled? What would you like to tell her?
There's so many things I would tell her.
So we are ending here for our two-part series with Jasmine Chambers. And the reason that I wanted to make it a two-part series is because there is so much power in what she had to say. And the fear that can be present after you begin to use your voice, the questioning that you do inside, and really just knowing that you're doing what's right, even when it's hard, is so important. Jasmine has continued to choose to be brave. You know, her and her husband, when they left their high control religious group, they didn't have a car. They didn't have any money. They had their 4 young children, and they went and slept on concrete floors in a barn. And now what people see from them is these really successful, incredible people that have a beautiful self-built home. They have so many things that today, people would say is valuable. But what they don't see is a lifetime of uncovering the pain of being told you are only allowed to live and learn from these certain people, and everyone else in your world is bad and is the devil. So take what she said today and really let her bravery, even in the quietest times, inspire you to do the right first thing. I am so proud that I got to talk to her today, and part 2 will be coming soon.